So Draymond Green's not real happy. He didn't make all first-team defense in the NBA. And there's a lot of good defensive players. Marcus Smart's terrific. Celtics have a few of them. Robert Williams is terrific. Rudy Gobert, unbelievable. But it's interesting about this. Draymond Green has influence. And I think influence is what creates cultures. Influence does. And cultures are really important in winning. In my life, the people that have had influence over me have not been the richest, often haven't been the smartest. Maybe it's values, maybe it's the way they see the world or the way they live. Ask yourself, who's had influence over you? Most basketball fans think Carmelo Anthony is better than Draymond Green, and I just laugh at that. That's a very unsophisticated look at basketball. Carmelo Anthony is a lousy defender. I don't see any leadership skills. Was once threatened by Jeremy Lin as a teammate. No influence of note over any culture. Could never come to terms until the very end of what he was. And oh, by the way, he was so stubborn, he wasn't willing to even change the best part of his game, his jumper. Nope, wouldn't shoot threes. In the prime of his career. Westbrook, John Wall, Melo, a sea of baskets. Virtually all of them irrelevant. All forgettable. And then there's Draymond Green. In this last 8 years, the best culture, the dynasty in the league, that actually, if not for falling apart physically against Toronto, would have another title. He's their best defender. He's their most verbal player. He is their enforcer. And every time they've made the finals, he's led them in assists as a power forward. Influence, influence, influence. This culture is about two people primarily. Steph's offense and selflessness, influential, and Draymond's toughness, his verbal expertise, barking, yelling at stars, non-stars. The two guys that have had influence, Klay Thompson can hit more threes. Draymond's got a lot more influence in the culture. And that's, what are you holding in your hand right now? Most of us in America, even if you're driving half the time, an iPhone. Steve Jobs was never the smartest guy in Silicon Valley. He acknowledged there were smarter people at Apple. He was not a pioneer. A lot of phones out there before the iPhone. What he had is influence. He created something that we didn't even know we needed, and now we can't live without it. That's what made him the richest guy. That's what made him Steve Jobs. Eventually, Apple has so much influence over us. For a while, Facebook had it, and then we bailed on that and the guy who leads them. Just ask yourself, who has influence over you? Probably a parent, right? It could be an uncle. It could be an aunt. Draymond Green, and I think this is something that's really important. Slam Magazine will put on the guy that scores and has style and's got some juice to his game. Draymond Green has had massive influence in the greatest basketball culture over the last decade. I've said this for years about Mike Shanahan. Hall of Fame voters can be brutal at this. Bill Walsh and Mike Shanahan are arguably the most influential cultures. Bill Belichick's a great coach, but his assistants mostly stink. What influence has Bill had beyond winning with Tom? Now that Tom's gone, where's his influence? Feels like he's behind the curve on what the game is going, weapons and quarterback play. Bill Walsh copied today. Mike Shanahan's offense is all over this league. It wins. It's made quarterbacks rich. It's made coaches rich. There are families throughout the NFL. Feels like a third of these teams run Mike Shanahan's offense. And he won Super Bowls. His influence is everywhere over this league. Where's Belichick's? When's the last Belichick assistant that crushed? Vrabel wasn't an assistant. Where's his influence? He's great. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think Kobe had a lot of influence. I just think he was great. Michael, because of his marketing and his popularity, Michael had more influence. Steph's got more than all of them. And so we don't think about that a lot. It's buckets, it's points, it's style, it's look in your life, look what's in your hand, look at what wins beyond you, look at what wins after you. All comes back to one word, influence. Draymond has a ton. Final start tomorrow. I like Golden State. Competitive series in 6. Anonymous polls, which, by the way, nothing less accurate in the history of sports than anonymous polls in the NBA. But here we go. The Athletic went out. They asked a scout. They asked a coach. They asked an executive. Who do you like? So here's their reasoning. Very interesting. A lot of Boston love. So the scout comes out anonymously and says, I like the Celtics in 6. A very rough road, competitive road to get here. Won a couple of Game 7 on the other guy's court. Size will be an issue in the Celtics' favor. It will. I think Boston's bench is better. That's debatable. I think Boston's got more depth, more size. They've risen to the moment. Scout loves the Celtics. The coach likes the Celtics in 6. Boston's defense going to be good enough to limit the easy buckets that Golden State generates. Boston can play big with Robert Williams, maybe Horford. They can play smaller with Grant Williams. They can switch a lot. They're very physical. Don't deny that at all. The executive takes the Warriors in 7. It sounds like he likes Boston, though. He says the Warriors have a home court advantage. That'll be a big deal. I think Boston, for the league, is a better defensive team overall. I'm not sure they have the weaponry to guard Golden State. My number one concern for Boston, and I think they could win it, they were second in the league in blowout wins this year, I think, to Phoenix, is that they lose leads and lose games when they outplay people. So when Golden State outshoots you and outplays you, they bury you. The Warriors have played 16 playoff games in half, 8. They've blown people out. 9 or more, blown them out. The Celtics have played more games, 18, and in only a third have they done that. And that's amazing because Miami was falling apart and the Bucks were a one-man team. So the Celtics allow you within arm's reach even when they dominate you. I said this a couple days ago. Celtics can dominate you for a quarter and they're up by 9. If the Warriors dominate you for a quarter, they're up by 22. And both teams are very different. The Warriors don't start quickly. Their worst quarter is the first. Then their best quarter is their third, and the Avalanche rolls downhill. They're a very confident team, just takes a while to get going. Boston's the opposite. They're great in the first half. Then their point differential in the fourth quarter, not nearly as special. They're often seizing control, clearly the better team, and then holding on for dear life against a lesser team in a moment. And so to me, that's the series. I think the games are close. I think both teams are too good defensively to have a lot of blowouts here. We'll have one, I'm sure. But to me, this series comes down to if Golden State outplays Boston, they will win the series quickly. If Boston outplays Golden State a lot, I think they could lose in 6. I saw them outplay Miami and Milwaukee. Multiple halves, not pull away. Multiple games, actually lose. That, to me, is the series. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.